is the Diary of a Lady Band Director podcast, brought to you by the Passion Is Network.
Hello. We're back. We had a little bit of I call it a spring break. That's what we had. Because guess what? We need breaks too, because most of us are still teaching in some way. And listen, this post-pandemic year, woo child, the ghetto. It's been the ghetto. Like, there ain't no sugarcoating it. It has been not as bad as like the middle of the pandemic. Like when the children realized that they could breathe God's air and still pass, that they can have like an excuse for everything. And some of it was legitimate, but we know some of them babies had stories. And I ain't talking about the soap opera kind that my grandma used to watch. We talking about, see, what had happened was my computer don't work. I'm like, yeah, but I just saw you post on Instagram. So just saying. I mean, your phone worked on it, but we're not going to go back there. We're not going to go back there because today's topic is a little different. And today's topic has been brought to you by Cybil. I'm about to call you the queen of topics because Cybil will light up our little group with a topic. I'll be like, we got enough topics for the next year. Keep them rolling, Cybil. So today's topic is called band class, instruments not included. And it reminds me of this like movie that came out in the 80s about batteries not included, but it has nothing to do with this. But I'm an 80s kid, and commercials used to be like, they show you this fabulous toy. And then always in the fine print, batteries not included. So we're going to talk about why people have band programs or expected to have band programs or music programs, but not a damn thing to run a band program. So introducing, we have Takenya Battle, Miss Keys herself. Kenya Keys has her own personal business, support Black businesses. She gives lessons, y'all. Hit her up in the chat, saying, hey, I got my son, my daughter, I want to get them started because they're the future. Hit Takenya up. Takenya got the juice. Cybil is the master of marching band, concert band, competitive band in North Carolina. And, I know it's trying, but Cybil hold it down. And we got Ann Shield, Lady Davis, got a juke. I'm not going to talk trash about the jukes today because I would be disrespecting my buddy, but phenomenal educator, and students, they always chime back about how great of an educator Miss Davis is. She holding it down in the South. I've been told that Maryland's not the South, even though we below the Mason-Dixon line. Don't y'all shake your head at me. We in the South like-ish too. All right, so I'm gonna stop running my mouth. Today's topic, band class, instruments not included. And the first question is, did you have enough instruments when you started teaching band, or you started your studio, or even when you was in school? I'm not going to go first because I've been talking enough. But did you have enough instruments, supplies, equipment to actually function? All right. Takenya, you about to start trouble already?
No, we ain't have enough of what we needed because the core classes took precedence. So, full disclosure, I am not a band teacher. Full disclosure, nor have I ever been, but I have been a music educator for the past 22 years. 14 of those years were in the public school system in Dallas ISD. Last 8 years running my own music lessons business wholly online. But we never had enough of everything that we needed. And anytime I would ask, it was like, no, well, the fifth grade has to buy some new widget, or third grade needs XYZ so they can meet the standards on the $248 million standard test industry that is testing these kids to exhaustion and self-inflicted pain. Oh, my daughter's giving me an amen over there. Amen, sister. Amen. So no, we did not always have everything we needed.
And we ain't have enough. What about you, Miss Davis?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I was going to say I have had the opportunity to start beginning band. I know with high school, we have our larger instruments like bass drums, percussion equipment, the sousaphones, baritone. Sometimes you may have a trombone, but most of the time the kids would come in with their own personal instruments. And then with middle school, that's when they start. So they have to start their individual rentals of the flutes, clarinets, trumpets, saxophones, if their parents could afford it. And that would be the thing. Like sometimes the parents would be like, "Oh, I can't afford that," and so the kid would be out without an instrument. I'm like, "But y'all invest in AAU, and you'll invest in buying $200 cleats or basketball." To me, I thought, it's worth the investment because this is something your child will be able to do for the rest of their lives. So why not invest in it? They can actually get money for college. So that would always be my spiel at my beginning band parent meetings to ease their, not wanting to put forth the money to rent a child an instrument. And as far as the school supporting, mostly everything we had to fundraise for. Like I didn't have a budget in most of my schools that I taught at. So whatever I had, I would have to raise throughout the year through fundraisers. When I moved to Texas, we were fortunate. They did provide a budget, which I thought was, it was a big difference from what I was used to from teaching in Georgia and Louisiana and Alabama. So they gave us a budget, but I started to see a shift towards the end of like last year, and I think it had to do with them including music into all classes. So now is a part of the education for students, and so Title I money was available for music. But I remember it was a time it was like, no, we can only buy this for science or social studies or English. And I was like, well, golly, what we get? Oh, we can't buy that for y'all, because y'all are elective, y'all are music. But it's starting to change, and I think it's because of the that No Child Left Behind has changed, and so now you can purchase supplies for music classes with Title I funds. But most music educators may not know that, and so hopefully by now they'll hear this and try to inquire to their principals. Hey, I heard y'all could buy us band books with Title I funds. Especially if your school is a Title I school, because music is part of the education of the whole entire child.
So various. It still seems like people just don't have enough what they need. Like if you got fundraise for it, that means you ain't got it. Ain't in your room. Like if it's not in your room and kids can't just go to the storage room or the storage closet and grab it, you ain't got it. And thank you, Ms. Davis, for shedding light on that. We're going to talk about that a little later too, about how if you're a Title I school, you can. Some of the funds should be coming your way. Now, there's some games that be played with them funds. What about you, Cybil?
Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna go back to when I was in middle school, and I don't remember ever my band director providing an instrument for anybody other than a tuba. Anybody. Then in high school, I don't remember my band director supplying any instruments for anybody other than a tuba. Uh, when I graduated from college and I started teaching, I don't remember in '04 having to give anybody an instrument other than a tuba. Second job, same thing. Here recently, 2016 is when I realized I was giving out more instruments than students were coming in with their own. And I was like, wait a minute. But it was 2016. I say all of that to say I experienced a time where nobody was doing that or had to do that. I think it's the value that people are placing on getting an instrument. I think our values or principles are in our wrong place or whatever. Maybe the parent is not the actual one playing it, so they don't feel as invested in it. You know, it's kind of like it's not really making me any difference. But that's just what I wanted to say. I remember a time where we weren't giving instruments out, and now as recently as 2016, it's almost like expected. Like when you join band, they're gonna give you an instrument. So
I'm gonna tag on to that because you know, me and Cybil, we the same age. We look great for our age. That's all I'm gonna say. We look great. But when I started band and I had Pratt in middle school, I don't recall. I remember a list going home and the little sign up for band, and it was like, if you want to play this, and the list was like long, this instrument, you got 2 weeks to get this instrument, these accessories, and this book. I remember the first evening, I got my instrument. My uncle gave me an instrument. It was a clarinet. I wanted to play saxophone, and my parents saw the price, and they was like, oh, hell no, we ain't got it. So I ended up on clarinet because my cousin played clarinet in school. It was in the trunk of his car. So it would be my own instrument instead of renting. Fast forward, we get the list and you go to the music store. Something that's a foreign, it's like, we're going to get into that. But anyway, get to the store, got the book. It was First Division Band book, the red book. I remember that book. And on the way home, I remember sight reading through the book, which is a whole nother topic, that I was a beginning band student and I could read everything in the book already. That's a whole nother topic because that means that I learned how to read in elementary school. Just gonna throw that out there for another day. And then we went to class. Now, I didn't get a clarinet for a few weeks. So people were playing and I didn't have an instrument. And guess what? A clarinet didn't manifest out of a storage room because I ain't had one. I just sat there, was just quiet. Just like, I'm going to look at the notes and I'm going to play air clarinet. But I ain't had no instrument. And it wasn't like a standoff between my parents and Brat about why she don't have no, it just didn't exist. Fast forward to my first year teaching, I got hired by a charter school. Charter school was like, we want to start a band program. I was like, great. Where's the inventory? They're like, I was like, did I start? What am I giving out? They was like, oh, we were hoping that you be creative. All right, you want a band, right? You hoping we're gonna be creative. I ain't have nothing. Now, I ain't talking about no tubas or I'm missing a section. I ain't have a damn thing. Not a clarinet, not a flute, nothing. And I'm like, what kind of foolishness? So the fine arts coordinator called me on a weekend, a week before school started, and was like, there's a school closing, which full circle, I ended up at that school, maybe about 3 years later. It's a school closing, and in the science lab storage room, there's instruments, and we need you to come get these instruments. They were off the books. That meant somebody had some instruments that was never turned into inventory for the district. And these things were in boxes, brand new. Probably looking at the invoice, and the paperwork was still in there. Been sitting there maybe about 5-6 years, untouched. Drums, whatever. And that was how I started my first band program. But the school, they looked at me like, oh, we thought you would bring a band. And that was maybe about 30 instruments. Guess how many people on that roster? The entire 7th and 8th grade. So that was 120. I got 30. You already know what that looked like. Management an issue. I walked out the classroom my first year teaching. A lot of people don't know that. I walked out in March. I was like, this is foolishness. You can't expect me to do a job. I walked out. I walked out on a Tuesday. That's my spiel. I ain't have nothing, not a damn thing. And my students now in my home district in PG County, they have everything they need, but it's a VPA program. But all of my career, 90% of the inventory until I got to the high school level came from me gathering things from pawn shops over the years to build an inventory. Pawn shop, eBay, Facebook Bay. Hey, y'all, who got a clarinet that you don't play no more? Can you like ship it to me? I'll give you that little tax write-off. And that's how I got an inventory. Matter of fact, my house is like a band room right now. I got a marimba. This stuff is mine. But that's my spiel. Ain't a damn thing.
I want to know, Ansel, how big was your budget? Was it a big, beautiful budget? Was it a little teeny tiny budget?
It was a nice size budget, like over $16,000 just for the middle school program. So it paid for like repairs, transportation to UIL, supplies. You know, if I needed an instrument, I would have enough money where I could buy it. But that is not very common, you know. Like I said, that's when I moved to Texas. We were very fortunate in that district that the district did support the fine arts, you know. So that's not your usual case. Because I know at my high school, when I taught in Columbus, Georgia, we didn't get a budget, but they did give us like the gate money from the football games. And so at the time, our high school hadn't won a game. I think they won their first game my 4th year at that school. So it wasn't that many people coming to the games. So I'd be like $69 here. Oh, here's $125. So, you know, I used what I had to do what I needed to do. But yeah, back when I started, we all had to have rented an instrument. But those kids were fortunate, and the parents would still be like, y'all don't provide the instrument? And I'm like, well, no, we need y'all to like go rent one. I said, please don't go buy one from Walmart. No, not one of those. You know, they always say, we can't tell them what not to buy. And so I just like, well, if it costs less than $100, you probably don't want to get it. It's not going to be a real instrument, and it's going to cost you more to fix it. And some of them would still go get that instrument that comes with those white band gloves. And the kids be so excited. I'm like, you better be careful with that one, because once you bump it out of line, y'all be buying a whole new one. And I had a parent, she was like, the music store couldn't fix this clarinet, and so I just bought a new one. And I'm like, you bought another one. Okay. Same instruments, gonna be the same problem. But in Texas, it was a little harder because they had specifics on what type of instruments they wanted the kids to get. And I was like, ooh, this is going to be tough because no one's going to want to buy a Geinhardt flute because that's going to cost some money. Nobody's going to get a Yamaha or a Bach trumpet. That's going to cost them a little more. But I'm just going to go back to before then when I had, no resources. Whatever my kids were able to rent, and I'm still not counting those $100 joints, but whatever the kids would bring, that's what I would work with. And, if whatever I didn't have, I would try to fundraise to get it or let them know, hey, we need equipment such as X, Y, and Z. And I think that's kind of where, for high school, your band boosters could help out if you have one. And if you, because one school I started at, they didn't have one. So we had to, I had to start one because I knew I needed some support because the school just wasn't giving us what we needed. Or it was like they couldn't. I mean, some schools really couldn't. And I'm not saying some schools, and it was one particular school. I just know, they would do their best. But yeah, the parents would still ask, well, y'all don't provide the instrument? And I'm like, no, we don't. They have to rent one. And I remember I had students like yourself, Krystal, that would just be sitting waiting for their instrument. So what I used to do, I started everybody on recorders. And they had a month to get their instrument. And then those kids that just did not come back with an instrument, well, I put them on a trombone, a baritone. I didn't have tubas in middle school. Oh, I did have concert tubas, but they weren't in the best shape. So I started them on baritone. We did have baritones that were donated through this some alumni group, and those were what the school had. And so those kids would either end up on percussion, the big or one of the bigger instruments, trombone, baritone, and because I didn't want to kick a kid out because they didn't have an instrument. But I was fortunate; those classes weren't large. I didn't have the entire 7th and 8th grade. I don't know what I would do at that point. Like everybody playing bells. I don't know. but I was able to, keep those kids that were interested, if they were good kids. Now, if they were in there wreaking havoc, I was like, oh, you got to go. I'm sorry. You don't have an instrument. They won't be a discipline problem. But
So Ms. Davis, we on opposite sides of the tracks because I have never had a band program with a budget. Never. Like not the prominent one I left like this past school year. Never. All of the money I made it. And that was the only way you would even see these kids. And just when we talk, I always listen to where you're from and where I teach at. And when I tell people that it's different up here, they don't get it. Like I'd be like, why y'all band suck? It's like if you starting beginners every year from scratch with nothing, you lucky these babies can play the scale by the end of the year. You lucky if they can play like 2 good notes in a row. So it's real different. It's real different. But that's the basketball up here. Woo, they got all the money. And I know that sports thing is another animal. This leads me to the next question. Should the district provide students with what they need for band class? I'm just gonna personally say, the way the parents are, we're talking 20, 30 years of this as a habit now up here. If a kid is in your class, there's almost a kind of unspoken rule. Don't ask them for anything. Don't ask them for reads. Don't ask them for not even money to replace things that they use. Whatever you need, you better have found a way to have it. And it's sad because it does affect our programs a lot. Like it's really like if you can't figure it out up here, you won't have a band. Plain and simple. Administrators even get mad at you if you ask. They'll be like, what? I had a principal ask me, I put in an invoice for $500 for reeds, valve, and drumsticks. That was the first thing I ever asked. I went 5 years without putting in anything in repairs. And when I say no budget, that includes repairs. There wasn't even a repair budget. So I would have instruments. I wouldn't even have the money to fix it when it went down. So we'd just go on my desk and I would get the hot glue gun or duct tape. So I don't know, like, do you think schools should? Because there is a narrative up here, like, don't ask them. And I have had principals, administrators say, why does this cost so much? Like if I try to put it in, they say, oh, you're not getting anything else for the rest of the year. I put in, after my 4th year at my former school, I put in an invoice for a sousaphone. We really needed one. It's marching band. Like the sousaphones that were there had been there for about 20 years. We already know what shape they were in. And I put in an invoice for a scratch and dent fiberglass sousaphone. Those are cheap. And it was like $3,500. I put it in. She almost laughed at me. She was like, "Oh, I guess you're not getting anything else this year." And I said, "Fine," because by then I was like, I'm used to this treatment. I'm not gonna put in an invoice that you're gonna turn down anyway. Just give me a sousaphone. Give me a sousaphone. I'll leave you the hell alone. Don't come down here though. So, do y'all feel like they should? Why not?
I'm glad you said that you put in that request, like that invoice that you sent in, so that the admin can actually see, like, this is what it costs. Because when I started producing receipts and asking for my money back, that's when they started like, oh, this actually costs monies. And this was an elementary music school with between 600 and 800 students. And so that's where it was my role to make sure those kids had that foundation so that by the time they made it to y'all in middle school and high school, they can do more than just read the notes. That's my job as an elementary music teacher, is to make sure that when they get to y'all, it's so much easier for you. But it was when I started putting in those requests for more monies that they were like, oh, this actually, it's worth something. And it's a whole lot easier when you have an admin who's fine arts sympathetic. So yes, I do think they should provide at least some entry-level instruments. It may not have to be the Yamaha. It may not have to be like the Selmer Mark 6, but just like some kind of entry-level something to give a foundation. There should be like a standard foundation set that everybody has based on population.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. They should at least provide the instruments that we know people aren't able to rent. Like, who rents a French horn for $50 a month? So they should provide at least those things, because kids can't afford a whole entire tuba, or like you said, a sousaphone, or even percussion equipment, or a drum line set. Like, they have to be able to provide the bare minimum if they want a program, and that should be included in their budget when they're, oh, we have this class, we have to fund it. Because I don't remember them asking me to go buy test tubes for science, or chemicals that I needed for experiments, or pigs that I had to dissect. Like, I have to go out and purchase that. So they should at least provide that, like you said, the entry level, or at the big instruments. Like, who rents a timpani nowadays? But you need it, if you want a full concert ensemble with their instruments. And I think it's just trying to educate people that don't know, or want to, be blind to the fact. Because I know they know that. Well, I don't know. I know you always say you think about where I am, but that's just crazy to me that they wouldn't even acknowledge that it takes money to like, where they think y'all get these instruments from.
God. They come from God, honey. They come out the sky. God opens up his holy diadem, and they just trickle down from the heavens. But they want that band to perform and will look crazy. And when she did spend $500 on the reeds, the next year I put that same invoice in, and she said, "Did we buy these last year?" $500, y'all. Hot damn mess. So,
She probably didn't know what the purpose of the reads were. You were like, they're probably gone by now. But that's another thing. They need to be schooled on the terminology and what these things are. You just bought them last year. Yeah, I know they're gone now. It's time for new ones. But I was gonna say, if they are going to supply things like pencils and paper and erasers, if you're gonna do that, then I think they should do that for band instruments as well. I have nothing to do with the difference in price. They are still required materials for my class, and you are purchasing kids stuff that they're supposed to be bringing to school anyway. So I think we should level the playing field and do the same thing with the music aspect of things. That's my opinion.
well, I think that's fair. Like, old school me say, go get this stuff because it's your child, and you invest in your child, and they have no problem with that basketball cleats. My son is in karate. They said he needs $100 for sparring equipment. That's on top of his monthly how much it costs for him to be in karate. So it was like, all right, he needs a cup, he needs his guards, shin guards, he needs gloves, he needs all of this. Had to buy the gi separate. They didn't provide him with any of that stuff. So if you want to provide them with these items, you know, they send the graphing calculator, the TI, what was them 180?
That TI 84.
Yeah, like they give those things out and kids lose them. I saw the replenish budget at the end of a year. One year I was on the IoT for how many calculators. I was like, so not only do you provide them with them, when they lose them, y'all go spend $30,000 on calculators? What the? You know, make you want to cuss. But I'm sitting here with reads, and you like, didn't they use them last year? So I agree, Cybil. I agree, you know, and Shell, I agree, Takenya, at least the basic stuff, like tubas, percussion stuff. Because Charles Connor said that stuff will wipe you the hell out budget-wise. I've never gotten to school or anything from percussion, like a percussion equipment is its own animal. That was always something that I had to write a grant for. Something Donors Choose project. And I got one funded one year, $10,000. And that was 4 bass drums in the harness.
But you know what? Even at the elementary level, they still had a standard set of instruments that we all had to have as music teachers. Those Orff instruments, those metallophones, that stuff everybody had to have. So if they can do it at the elementary level, like these kids ain't going to be walking around playing no bilophone or anything like. They're not. This is not something they're gonna do long term. This is just gonna be for the 50 minutes they sit with me in class. It's not like they're gonna take it home and practice with it. If they can standardize what each elementary school gets as a music program, certainly they can do it for the middle school and high school levels. If they expect greatness, they're gonna have to put some skin in the game.
I was gonna say, even with athletics, as big as their budgets are, kids still go out and try to buy stuff before they even get that stuff. They're just so excited about being a part. They want to go buy equipment in advance using their own money for a organization that already has a budget. So it's the level of desire and passion about it, and maybe how it's put out or advertised to the world as well. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting that they'll find a way when it's athletic, but musically they don't expect it.
I can tell you straight up, I have the kid that I have that's on the football team. We ain't never had to pay one thing down for nothing. And my baby that's playing clarinet in 8th grade band right now, we making payments on that thing. We making payments on it. But we never had to pay anything for him to do football, but we've had to put out for the clarinet.
What's crazy about that, you know, we're talking about clubs and extracurriculars that they provide for. Like, that don't sit right with me, because this is something they get a grade for versus something that they're just participating in out of desire, and they'll provide budgets. Now, I know the argument can be that sports brings in money, but my spring concert, on average, the school I left, we brought in $7,000 to $10,000 the spring concert alone. And the school didn't have to provide us with anything except for time and space in the auditorium. And we was bringing in $7,000 between the band boosters, selling concessions during the spring concert, selling raffle tickets, whatever, we was making it happen. And this is for the class that y'all put kids in involuntarily with no budget. Like, for real, it's that doesn't make sense to me.
Why we gotta sell a hot plate to make stuff happen, though? I mean, why
spaghetti.
Is that the MO?
But we was hustling, like, for real, Takenya. We were hustling like it was it was getting done. And that's gonna be our next question. Like, we were making it happen because my heart so much wanted for kids, especially a lot of my students didn't have a lot. So my heart was like, I'm gonna make it happen. They show up, They do what they're supposed to do. They're not cutting up. They're not fighting every day. At one point, I had 10% of the band were in the National Honorary Society. 10%. And they also were 10% of the National Honorary Society in a school of 1,000 girls. So that means the class that you won't fund has the top kids in it. So you can't be like, oh, we don't see any evidence of achievement. Yeah, you do. So should we make it happen? School ain't give us a budget. No band booster. District ain't quite meeting all the needs. Should we make it happen? What do y'all think? Should we make it happen?
Oh, I was gonna say, I think for me, it would depend on if the kids wanted it. If the kids want it, then I'm gonna figure out a way to make it happen. If we gotta continue to, put little nuggets in people's ear that we need the support, but we'll still keep pushing forward, especially if we got a group of kids that really, really want it. I mean, I've had a group of kids that really, really wanted it, and we would hustle like all year. I was gonna say, hey, Janae, she chimed in already today. But the kids make it worth it. Now, I think you kind of overlook all the other stuff you got to deal with when you got a group of kids that are really, really dependent on you, and you see potential in them. So, to an extent, yes, but to an extent, you probably get tired of doing that year to year to year. So that's why I say you'll do what you can. Keep putting it in there. Hey, we need y'all support. We need y'all support. But like one of the people have already commented, when you don't have the support, it's like a dead end. So you can get burnt out very quickly trying to do everything yourself, because I've felt the pressure of that myself. But it's worth a try, especially when you got kids that really, really want to do their thing with music.
I don't know. Should a band director try to make it happen when parents, administrators, or the school districts fail to provide the basis for a band program? I'm reading the questions. So, I'm kind of different, and I think it's because how I was raised. I really had to work for everything, like everything. It's a second nature. I don't know why I feel like everybody else should be that way too. I don't know. It teaches self-sufficiency and being able to do things for yourself, and not banking on somebody else coming for your back all of the time. I think we are training the kids wrong. I just think we're training them wrong, and it might be an unpopular opinion, but because we love the kids so much, we end up making it happen more often than not, because you don't want to let them down, but that's not right. I think they need to get these things themselves, like they get these shoes, they get these phones, they get these jobs. They need to get these books. It's a simple book. You need to get the accessories. So if you're trying to move on to the next level, you already have one, and you're not going on the collegiate level, asking for a clarinet, a tuba, trombone. Of course, that's something different, but I think we have to prepare them for the next level, and I think we're doing them a disservice. We're always giving them everything, even if we give them options. But hey, it's $29 a month. You don't have to buy it right out. Or hey, go to the pawn shop. Bring me with you so we can make sure it's okay. If it's not, there are ways. There are some kids who just go in there in the class, sit down, and have no desire to even try to get an instrument. So me go get you one, and you don't even have the desire. Imagine that year. So that's what I have to say.
Cybil, we on this, coming from both worlds and making it happen. I not just felt the burnout. I am the burnout. Like I am the burnout of when 15 years later, you're like, I'm still doing this shit. Like, I'm still, like, you still, like, everything you've asked me to provide. I've jumped when you said jump. The band has come when you came out to play for the alumni, for homecoming. 1 year before the pandemic, 2019, we had 4 performances on campus in one day. 4. The jazz band had to perform in the library, which involved marching band kids, and the drum major played drum set. We're in Class A concert band attire for jazz band. They scheduled the pep rally for the girls' school that I worked for at 1 o'clock, and the jazz band finished at 12:45. The marching band, the assistants, my band assistants had to line the other kids up outside. Yeah, I'm in the library with the jazz band and go run outside. The drum major, I just said, lead a drum set. We'll come back for it. Then had to go change into her whole uniform. That takes time. Ran outside, straight to the field. And this video, and she went right in. And as much as like, I'm like, that type of kid can take over the world. I was pissed because I said, that's not fair. And then they had another pep rally for Polly at 2 o'clock. So, and then we had rehearsal for the homecoming after school at 3 o'clock. So those kids had been on all damn day. And for you not to even take me out the picture, you're not even providing for them at this point. That's abuse. Like, you would not be in a relationship where you got nothing out of it. But they love band so much. I love band so much. They were hard workers. That was their favorite thing to do. Just be in the moment and in the atmosphere. But when I looked down at it, I said, the least you can do is this. So I stopped making it happen. And then, I'm just going to ask the other band director at the other school. I was like, so you rather do that than support your own? And so I walked from one of the best high school programs in my city. I walked because I said, you don't care how many credit cards I swiped. You don't care how many payment plans I put saxophones on. You don't care how many instruments I dropped off at a kid door, watched the parent cry. Because some of those kids really ain't got it. Like, I've been in their house, I've been to their neighborhood, and they don't even have food sometimes. Like, alumni would drop off food. They were like, what you need? I was like, sometimes I just need food so kids can take a cup of noodles home. So if they're gonna do all that work for us and for the school and the community, at least when we keep making it happen, it's not just disrespectful to us, in my opinion. It's disrespectful to them. That's my spiel. I don't make it happen no more. I refuse to work. Because they'll find it for everything else. And that's when I peel back the layers on budgets and I started to be in the admin positions, I was like, y'all have it. You spent $3,000 on calculators when kids got calculators on their phone. $3,000 would have been game-changing for me some years. So that's my spiel. I ain't making shit happen no more.
I feel like I think as educators, most educators tend to be natural givers. We want to see success for our students. And so we're willing to do certain things to bring those successes about. And that means sometimes, I know, like for me, that meant using my own equipment, bringing in my own laptop, my own projector even, and I could go on and on. But at some point I had to realize that I don't have to do that. The school should be taking care of basics. And one of the problems that I ran into is a lot of times equipment was stolen. Sound and AV equipment, audio equipment, instruments were just straight up stolen, and never were they replaced. So I was already scrapping stuff along together with spit and grit and tape and glue. And then now you took away, something else that I worked very hard to have for my students. I mean, Who steals a xylophone? I'm just saying. What y'all gonna do with that? Where you going? Where you going? Why the bass xylophone gone? It's not it. You can't put it in your pocket. Where is that? Where I'm just yeah. But they don't replace those things once they've been stolen. And when I would challenge that and say that I need the replacements or something equivalent, I'm the one that gets called on the carpet. I'm doing the walk of shame to the principal's office again, being called out again because I'm advocating for these students to the point where it ends up being like there's a level 3 hearing with me sitting across the table from my principal, trying to secure things for my students, trying to make sure that I have the same chance that all these other teachers get to help their students thrive. And it's definitely not fair. I don't mind going to bat for these babies, and they know that, but I had to find my personal limit.
Sometimes I think we shoot ourselves in the foot. Like they use that passion against us, like it becomes weaponized. You know what I mean? It becomes one of those things where, because I know you want a good man, I know you care. Like I know that because I can walk down your classroom and I can see how much more energy. You're not teaching from your desk. Band directors, music teachers, not teaching, not good ones. They're walking around. They're always in the loop. And because they know it, like I said, it could be an abusive relationship where it becomes expected. Mine turned into extreme abuse because I had a donor's choose and that was my lifeline. Donor's choose was my lifeline. And I got called in the office one day because she didn't like the wording of my donor's choose because I sound like I was begging. I was like, I am begging. I'm writing whatever sob story. And it's not even like fake. It's a real story. Like, what are you talking about? You don't like the fact that it says Title I. Damn it, don't you get the budget too? You know what? You got your school report card. You know how many kids are farm kids. You know. So you don't like, well, and then she started buying little things. I said, well, if I take this down, I have to have something. Like, because this is going to get funded. I know it because I've been doing it long enough. I know how to get $10,000 in 3 months. And, sometimes it turned into like, I would do like an instrument drive. I did a Facebook instrument drive and got like 10 flutes in a month. I was just like, hey, send it to the school. And she was so overwhelmed. The office was overwhelmed with instruments coming in. She was like, where are all these instruments coming from? I said, I asked people. So it's sad, like strangers, somebody in California finds more value in something than you do. And so I was always in the office. I was always in trouble. Y'all charge for the spring concert? I was like, where do you think this budget or this imaginary money come from? Well, who runs this? I said, the band booster. What band booster? I was like, you ain't that clueless. You just want to control stuff. So that leads me to the next question. Should admin control a band's budget? Because in some districts, if you put money, I found that out the hard way. Our choir found that out the hard way. They put money into the school general fund, and generally they can use it wherever they want. You have to have like a club account, and I had to open a club account for my class. And once I had a club account, whatever I put in, unrestricted, I can take out as long as it was going directly to like an invoice or something that I could produce a receipt. But I didn't know that money could be confiscated. So I had one great year where people were donating and the money went, I don't know, to chairs or something in the archives room. Something. So, should admin control budgets? It's their school. I say, yeah.
Of course not. I don't think they should. I don't think they should. In any situation I've been in, they didn't. They always would have to approve, and I would have to make make it known this is what we need this for if they had questions. But I've never had a principal try to control our funds or question why we're spending this on X, Y, and Z. And then that too is a good way to, a good reason to have your band boosters, because they can assist. The school can't control their money. If they want to buy everybody brand new spats, or buy pocket warmers for the kids when they go to football game, they can do that. That school usually doesn't have any control over that. So I don't think the admin should control the budget unless you got a band director, and that's rare. That's spending money that on stuff that they shouldn't be. That's the only reason I would see, somebody saying something, or the administration. Sorry.
I'm laughing because, oh man, I don't know how to say this. Some people that I have worked with in higher up positions found a way to early retirement quickly because they were being raked over. They were being called to the carpet for the goings on and the shenanigans in the financial affairs of the school. And this is someone who, how do I say this? This is someone who is in a leadership position and took advantage of much of the access that this person had. So should admin oversee? Probably not, based on my experience. I think you let people who know what they need take care of it. Should there be some checks and balances that can be baked into the system? That's too easy to do.
The way our school works is we do have our own separate accounts. We have like a band account, instrument repair fund account, drumline specifically, auxiliary band parents, and then district funds. However, it is still the admin's final say. If he should need some funding, he has the right to pull from even those. He's never done that since I've been there, but he does have that right. So the question, should they control the budget? I don't think they should control it. Not unless it was a former music educator in that position. Maybe even then he wouldn't control it, but would be able to understand, what we're doing. But I don't think a non-musician admin would really ever understand unless they took a course.
I'm gonna be a little devil's advocate. A lot of these urban school districts have some shenanigans that go on with money and band directors, and we can't sweep that under the rug too. Like I know why my former district was like this when it comes to money, because when your district has its own segment on Fox, weekly segment called Project Baltimore, and they always talk about money disappearing, because the principals and administrators, they go down for whatever happens in that building. I get why it's like that in some, unfortunately, urban districts. Not saying it doesn't happen everywhere, but there seems to be, when it comes to marginalized communities, money always seems like it goes to the wrong people and not the right people, which are the children and the people who educate them. And so I kind of get it. If I was a principal, I need to know where every single dollar is going, because that's my job too. And I came to my school building about 10 years ago, my former building, and the principal had been taking money out of the student activities account. What money is that? That goes to clubs, that goes to band, choir, dance. And for years, we thought there was no money for any of those things. And guess what? They got a slap on the hand. But after that, it was like hell on earth to spend anything. It was like, oh, what you need? You need competitive POs for this. Like, you need to go to this vendor And that's the standard in my dish. And then bring back 3, and then we will decide which one we're going to go with. And that's control. And it sucks because sometimes that vendor doesn't have the same quality item, but you're like, damn it, I need it. So like, at least they're getting it, or at least they've approved it. But I get devil's advocate why, and I've known some band director friends that have had early retirement plans because the money wasn't fully accounted for. And I've been on the accusatory, like, oh, we had a Music in the Parks trip, and one Title I school decided in my district they were gonna pay for the whole trip to Hershey Park. They paid for all the kids' tickets, the buses, or whatever. And one of my former band kids transferred to that school and told one of the band kids there, our trip was free. Why y'all paying for Music in the Parks? Because when you're in a place where music is not like what everybody does, and they hear like over here, oh, we went for free and y'all went yesterday and y'all had to pay $75. I got called to the table and had to pull every single receipt, invoice, whatever out to prove that I wasn't charging kids for something that was free. But first of all, I was like, you're an idiot. You don't get an amusement park free. Like, go ask the principal. The principal is actually mad because the band director there had so many kids that did not pay anything. The deal was supposed to be that they would reimburse it, but that's not really fully what happened. So when it got back to me, I'm sitting in the office again, always in the office. And I guess I'm making up for lost time because when I was in school, I was straight A's kid. I never knew what the principal office looked like until I became an adult. And she was just like, so why are they saying that this? And then the word spread around my band. It became a little toxic for a moment because there were kids who really believed they had been unfairly charged. I literally ended up having to take every invoice on the board and was like, and say something to me. That instrument that I'm renting on my credit card will go back to the store and you can go sing down the hallway in choir. And it's sad that it's like that. I don't agree. I don't think they should control a damn thing. But in some districts, you are not allowed to have a band booster. In some districts, the band booster can decide what they want to do with the money without the band director because in some cases, they're their own nonprofit. I had a band booster because I needed a protection of saying that I did not spend the money. It didn't touch my hands. I just gave them an invoice. They paid for it. They're their own 503c. And if you got some issues, take that to court. I just told them what to buy. I work for the ghetto, right? I know, all the way. So the question for the viewers, this is the one that a lot of band heads, band fans don't even know. People who've been in band. How much does it really cost for half this stuff? Let's just throw out transportation, a bus or two to get your kids to a performance, a band competition, something. How much does transportation cost in your area? If you even know.
I don't recall, but I remember that we couldn't go somewhere because there wasn't enough money in the budget for us to get a school bus. And that happened several times. And it wasn't happening just to me as the music teacher. It was happening across the school. There wasn't enough money in the budget at the end of the year because we were using funds from a nonprofit to pay for the buses. So sometimes nobody was going anywhere because the field trip couldn't happen because we didn't have a bus.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Cybil.
How much does it really cost? I guess it depends. I think the amount of hours that the bus is used, plus paying that driver, and then depending on how many buses you need for marching band, we will use 2 buses, so that's paying 2 drivers and paying for those hours. We do band camp and band dues as well. In those band dues, we say that a portion of that is going towards transportation, but I let them know that it is just the tip of the iceberg. You're not really paying anything, but we need this if we're going to take these trips. So, I don't know. I've seen an $800 bill, $1,000 bill before, going off to like music at the parks, something like that. But that's one trip, and for certain budgets, that's the only trip that you're gonna be taking that year. That's crazy.
For real, the only trip we took was to the Dallas Symphony Orchestra every year. That was it.
Well,
I know. I don't know. I know the numbers because the school was never providing any of it. So I know exactly how much every damn thing costs. A bus in my former district, a yellow cheese bus, is $400 for 4 hours local, meaning less than 50 miles for one yellow cheese bus. So if we went to Morgan State, which I would do, like, hey, let's go to Morgan State home, not homecoming, because they provide buses. That, thank God for, participating in the homecoming parades. A lot of colleges do that. They provide you with transportation. Some. Morgan will provide you with the buses if they invite you. But if I took them on any trip, it can be in the city limits, just in the 7-mile radius of Baltimore. One bus was like $450, and most of the time I needed 2, so that's already $1,000 gone. And then 1 year, so we didn't travel a lot. 1 year, I said I wanted them to go to Dale State. We got invited. I had a few students who went to Dale State. I thought it would be a good experience to participate. In my district, if you travel over 50 miles, though, you have to use a charter bus. And the charter bus was $1,600 per bus. We took 2, $3,200. So we didn't even talk about food yet. We talked about just to go, like, city limits for us to go to another school's game. That's $900. To go outside of 50 miles, which Maryland is small, but it's not that small. 50 miles might be the difference between going from Baltimore to DC is 50 miles. It's 50 miles away. If you out that limit, they like, okay, you have to have a charter bus. So that's transportation. What about food? Kids got to eat, right? I don't know.
They better get them a snack pack. Kids be taking a little juicy juice. But no, for real. Like, you usually get the parents will provide that portion and fund it. Or that was part of the school lunchroom budget. The cafeteria would provide that lunch because they were already due a lunch per the regs from the federal government. They're supposed to be getting lunch anyway. Y'all grab a little bag on the way out the door. Let's go. And the trip that we would take to the Meyerson Symphony Hall to see the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, that was only for like 4th grade. So only 4th grade could go. Or the trip that I would take choir on for a contest, that was like 3rd through 5th that I would take for that. And again, it was an issue of the buses, admission to the park, food for them to have at their, so they can do what they want to. But it took, again, a lot of fundraising to make sure that would happen. And everybody ain't got it. Everybody ain't got it. But you got to make it look like everybody has the access and the opportunity.
But sorry to interrupt with that fundraising where you give everybody the opportunity to raise their own money. Just saying, there are still kids, even in that group, that won't even try, that don't have an instrument. I'm like, ma'am or sir, this could be your band dues. Something as simple as I forgot the name of it, snap raise. Snap raise, you just have people come in and just make a monetary donation. You don't have to knock on anybody's door. You put it online and just say something every day. Send out 20 quality emails to these people and just see it grow. And some won't even do that. I'm like, what are you doing in this classroom? Like, what do you want to do? That's random, but not.
That's relevant though. Like if you want to eat, if you want to go, if you want to participate and you ain't got the money, like hustle. Get in this hustle with us. Like for real. And I've done the SNAP fundraisers. That was the very last fundraiser I did actually before I left, was a SNAP fundraiser, because the kids like merchandise. The parents like merchandise too. They like swag. So those work. But food, I always like this. Because all the money's coming from me, if you want us to be there, and you want my kids to be there, you feed them and you get us there. Period. I don't care if you don't do anything else outside of that. Within reason, feed them, get us there and back. Like, period. Because $5,000 just to go 2 places, that's a sousaphone. Can't be giving out that much money. I don't care. And this question is really for like the people who aren't in the driver's seat, like Charles Connor said. They have no clue why they don't never see your band. They just think that we just lazy music teachers who scared to bring their kids out because we don't want to get that smoke. That's the male delegation, some of them. Oh, y'all don't bring y'all kids out, because I was like, I don't bring my kids out because I need to survive the rest of the school year. Outside of this season, especially when it comes to marching band. Marching band is a season in most cases. MPAs, I gotta think about. I gotta think about graduation. I got about senior awards and gifts, band banquets. $5,000 will fund all of that. And we went 2 places. So if you want us to play, you gotta pay to play. Pay to play. Someone said the school doesn't own buses. Not in an urban area. There's no such thing as yellow buses in Baltimore City or Chicago. Kids get on public transportation, so there isn't a yellow bus to use. So that's already the pitfall. Food, uniforms. If you've had to purchase marching band uniforms in your career, or attire for the ensemble, because it's not always marching band attire. How much does marching band uniforms cost now? I know the answer on my end.
Oh, that's about uniforms are probably like over $80 or $90,000, depending on pieces. Because like if you are the show style band, you got 3 different pieces that you need. You got the shoulder shields, you got the ropes, you got the overlay, you got the jacket, you got the pants. So that right there is like a $600-$700 piece uniform. And then if you have a lot of kids, a lot more money. I was gonna chime in on the buses, but after hearing y'all, I didn't want to tell my side, because y'all be like, oh, this she all talking about the South. But
I'm moving down there. That's what's gonna happen. You keep talking.
I don't even remember
I'm selling my house.
A bus cost, because they always paid it for us. And like like if it was a marching band competition under athletics, that was included. They footed the bill. I do remember there was a couple of things that we did, and you have to pay for buses. But now the problem is we can't even get bus drivers down here. So that's our issue now. I couldn't take my trip this year because they didn't have no bus drivers to drive us. Like the bus drivers are like over it. They don't. And I know this is off topic, but it's so serious that if you cough on the bus and the bus driver writes you up, you kicked off the bus, because they are trying to keep all the bus drivers we can keep, to keep these kids coming to school. But that's kind of scarce down here as far as our drivers. But far as paying for trips, we were always fortunate to have a good athletic director to help pay for, because we do have our districts do own school buses down here in the South. So yeah, that was I was gonna share about the buses.
That's what I'm saying. I'm moving. Come on. Who got a room to rent out? Got to put 3 people in it though. 3 people. I'm moving. Uniforms.
We got uniforms in 2019, right before the pandemic. We were able to wear them one time in the Martin Luther King parade in that spring. Um, but it's an allotment that it's like a rotation in our county or district. So we got a $30,000 allotment that year. The next year is the next high school, so forth and so on, and it just rotates like that. So every 7 years we get $30,000 towards uniforms, and so, but that 30,000 covered only 64 uniforms. So, I have a couple of kids that still have to wear something else close to it. So, you still have to kind of raise money or whatever. But I did want to let you guys know that there is a rotation allotment. So 7 years, you're expected to keep that uniform maintained and all of that good stuff. What else was I going to say? I can't remember. I guess that's it.
Uniforms. I just the last gig I had, when I first got there in 2012, the uniforms had been there for about 10, 15 years, and they looked like it. They were not good looking anymore, and outdated looking too. So you already got a double whammy where you already look kind of crazy. And we had a standing gig with Loyola University in our area that was only like literally a quarter of a mile away from our school, where we were their active pet man. And we had a contract with them. It's $10,000 a year contract where we would provide pet man entertainment. We were their pet man. Like they paid for like the shirts or whatever the kids needed. They paid for transportation and food. It was a really good gig for as long as we had it. Unfortunately, the new directors, that contract ended upon me leaving, which, I was hoping so much that a lot of those things that I did put into place, or things that were grandfathered in place for me, did not last past the pandemic. But when me and the co-band director at the time got there, we had an agreement. We was like, we have to use this Loyola money for uniforms. There's no such thing as the district paying for marching band uniforms. Most of the time, people have paid for them themselves. They fundraise over several years straight, like dedicated straight to uniforms in a lot of people cases. So there was never, I didn't even bring that to my principal's table because I just didn't want to disappoint myself. Like, she was never going to pay for it. There was not even a half. The school next door, they did cover their half. They covered their half. It was $50,000. They covered $25,000. What I had to do on my end was not spend any of that Loyola money for 5 years straight, which hurt because that's money that could have been repair budget. It should have been replenishing the things that are going to wear and tear. But for 5 years, the money would come. I can't touch it. It's got to go to uniforms. And so in 2018, we were able to put in, into 2017, we were able to put in for the uniforms. And then 2019, so the same thing happened to me, Cybil. We got them. I have pictures and they look marvelous, but I only got to experience them for 1 year. So my entire tenure there, we didn't have good uniforms until my last kind of active year, until the, pandemic hit and nothing was happening. And I remember us being in an argument, me and the code director, because capes was $6,000 extra capes. I was like, no capes. Yes, I was like Edna, no capes. We don't need capes, not for $6,000. He's like, capes. And so when he left the position, or, voluntary early retirement, I got left with that $6,000 bill. I didn't know that he still ordered capes. And so Whereas I thought finally one year I would get that Loyola money. Like, yes, finally 5,000. I can keep something. Capes. The Stansbury was like, we got these capes. I said, no, I don't want no capes. Take them back. I don't want no capes. Please, no capes. So we ended up with these wonderful looking capes that was very red and flashy and made the uniform pop. But that was another year. So, almost to date, even though I had a hell of a fundraiser, which is our next segue, I didn't ever get to really touch it, so to speak. So fundraising, we keep talking about it. Like, what's the best way to make money for your band? Like, what works? I'm gonna tell you what I don't do. I don't do small fry stuff. I don't do popcorn, and because I had such a big deficit, it would just be too much work. Like it was just like throwing, pouring water in a bucket with no bottom. Just $500, $1,000 is not going to do it. So I had to be big hitter. I had to hit it like hard. We need 5,000 here, 10,000 here. So how'd y'all make it?
Well, I would actually make a lot of money selling popcorn. I think my kids raised, like, one year we raised about $7,000 selling popcorn. Because popcorn is my favorite food, and it's one of my favorite fundraisers. So I love to do the Poppin' Factory fundraiser. And plus, at the time, Cash Cow would come in and they would do this big old introduction to the fundraiser. So the kids enjoyed it and got them pumped up. Anything that they could eat, they would sell really well. Because like one school, I had like a different fundraiser every year. I mean, not every year, every month, just about. And we didn't do so well, like you were saying, it'd be like the small hits. And so one school we did our popcorn and we did cookie dough. And we'd only get to do them twice a year, because one system we could only do 2 fundraisers a year, and that was the school where we had a budget. And in the school we didn't have a budget, we were only able to do 2 there as well. But like with high school, World's Finest Chocolate was a big one for my kids. Like I made it up for them. Like however much you sell, that's how much you get to pay towards your fees. And then whatever extra kind of went into the big pot. And some kids were like, well, I paid my fees, but I still want to sell some more chocolate bars. I found those were the biggest fundraisers, were things that they could eat. And like you said, gear. One district I worked in, people loved to buy T-shirts, hoodies, anything that had our logo on it, even the school logo. But I was also going to say, and y'all don't hate me for this one too, but Mardi Gras was a very lucrative fundraising season for us, because, those crews would pay our schools to perform in their parades. On my first year teaching, I raised like $12,000, doing Mardi Gras parades. And I think that was a bad way to start, because once I moved out of Louisiana, I was like, well, there are no Mardi Gras parades here, so how am I going to raise my funds? But I think it depends on how your kids sell. You can make big money with those popcorn sales and the World Finest Chocolate brochures, because I always did stuff that people had to order. That with middle school, like we do brochures and they'd have to sell it first, and then we'd order it. That way I wasn't losing money. Like with World Finest Chocolate bars, that would get you in a bind, especially the kids have the candy, they eat it, don't pay for it, or leave it in the car and it melts, and you're like, what am I going to do with this product? You ruined it, and it's kind of hard to get them to pay for it if they've messed it up or already eaten it up. But those are the things that I had experience with doing to help raise funds for my program.
You said something that was key. Well, just to tag on, I stopped doing like World's Finest Chocolate and stuff like that because the kids would eat it. And I had, one year where the kids stole other people's popcorn. Not like my kids, but because people knew that the band kids had this stuff, they're breaking their locker and steal their box of chocolate. Or, I teach in, y'all know where I live. Like that type of stuff. You can't have something that can be taken. So I didn't want my kids in those situations. Like they at the bus stop and somebody jack them for all of their fundraising stuff. And that's not fair to them. And these aren't like, that's not the kids' fault. So we try to do stuff where you'll get it, but it can't be something tangible like right now. Like raffle tickets were cool because, come to the spring concert and here's a TV. And we will raffle big ticket stuff because what we would do was contact a large company like Beats. One year we raffled Beats by Dre. We raffled like 3 pair. We made so much money off that raffle. And it's crazy because you're selling dollars and $3, 3 for $5, whatever the little setup was. But then I ran into the restrictions. And the key thing you said is 2 times a year. I had that same restriction where we could only fundraise 2 times a year and it had to be approved by the principal. In my former district, you don't have free reign over fundraising, period. Like, even though you need this money, like there's certain things you can't do. You can't do raffle for money. You can raffle items. So that's like a lot of people, if you don't know, like Smash Time, I saw, it's hard to raise money when you're restricted. Like if they don't care, as long as the money is coming in and hands off. But if it's starting to get more and more political in school districts. They don't always want kids having like these things in chocolate, and the school's not going to cover it if the kids eat the candy or it gets stolen. So those type of things I steered away from. But what I did do was writing for grants, because I can say, all right, I need a specific item and this grant can provide me. Walmart, you can go, this is for anybody. Walmart, Sam's Club, you can go to every single Walmart in your area and get $1,000 grant. So what I do, I just hit all, I make a day of print the same letter. You don't have to like rewrite, just print the same letter and say, hey, my kids, I want to take them out of town. I'll teach in an area where the kids don't get to leave the city a lot. So we need $6,000. And that's how I got the buses to go to Dale State. And that was how I got the buses to go to Frostburg. I wrote for like these little small grants that added up to like $10,000, $15,000. So we can start to do things like travel and maneuver. But that's one fundraiser. So the Walmart grant couldn't be considered a fundraiser. That was the red tape. I was like, I got you. But if it was something like, if my name went on it, the band name went on it, it was regulated. And we had 2 weeks to fundraise. So popcorn is not beneficial if I only get 2 weeks to fundraise. Like we need like a month to build up enough, following for something like that. But the spring concert was cool because that could be a fundraiser, but in it, I can tie into a raffle ticket with the spring concert ticket. Or if you pay $50 donation for your spring concert ticket, you'll get 10 raffle tickets and your spring concert ticket. I had to be very savvy with how that looked, but like we can't, and then selling the student services is a no-no. I eventually got in trouble with that Loyola contract because she was like, I don't want to say you're selling the kids, but I was like, well, we're providing a service. And she was like, field trips are supposed to be educationals. We don't even call them field trips. We call them field lessons. So there's no such thing as you're going to compete. Like people don't know a lot about like why people don't do these things. Like if you're in a place where that's part of the culture, it's one thing. But if you're in a place where it's not part of the culture and they don't even rationalize why are kids competing for band, like that, those are questions I've gotten. Like, so they're gonna pay for them to come, and they just sitting there like, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. So it's easy if you're unregulated. It's hard if you gotta go through a lot of red tape. And I had to get real savvy. Like I said, I had a grant for repairs. 5,000 came from one place, and it didn't ever come to me. I gave them the address. I gave them the vendor's information. Send that check to so and so's music company, and then it would build up enough that if I put stuff in the shop, it's already being paid for, because that was one of our approved vendors. Or transportation, I had to use the same transportation company because they can keep our information on file. And then I write, a grant for this, and it goes directly to transportation. And yeah, like a lot of people like they doing too much, but see, I don't want to hear nobody pop up out their mouth that the people up north don't have because they don't want. Like, nah, it's a lot different. And you can be successful, but your hair gonna turn gray, and then you're gonna bleach it blonde.
I remember in the early 2000s, this was before nutrition got their red tape. We used to be able to sell like hot dogs during lunch or have a nacho sale, at the school. And all of a sudden they were like, you're competing with the cafeteria. You can't do that anymore. Like, you can't sell snacks after school. So, and I think too, having your band booster that'll allow you to have your more than two through the school if you have a legitimate great band booster, because they can do as many fundraisers that they want. They can do them all year round if they want, because like they would be the ones that would have the car washes or the fish sales, the plate sales. And then too, some people are I don't know how y'all have it up north, but I know in some areas down south, some schools own their own football field, and so they would give one of the concession stands to the band boosters, and like athletic parents would own the home side concession stand, and so that would be money that we would raise through athletics, was to sell at the football games through the concession stand. Now basketball, that was all athletics. They would kind of own and take concessions for basketball, but that was another way that our boosters were able to raise money for our program.
Like the boosters sort of kind of have free reign. Sort of kind of like it depended on what it was. Like if it was a raffle ticket, it was still like hell no. Like they didn't care if it was the booster, whatever. Like certain things, like they considered gambling, or doing like athletics is competing with athletics. So that's no. So that ixnays that. But like to be honest, I don't work there no more, so I can tell all my business. We were slinging cup of noodles out the storage closet in the band room. Kids would, the band kids who would get that, I made like free hall passes where they can kind of come and go. I would say they practicing, but really they would come up with their book bag and put like 5 cup of noodles in that book bag and then run it. I have runners. I know I sound like a drug dealer, but listen, we needed it. We got it. We survived. I don't work there no more, so you can't fire me. But I was slinging, like I would go to Sam's Club and get like candy from Sam's Club and re-up with that money and then give it to the band boosters. So the band boosters would go to Sam's Club, buy candy stuff, but we couldn't technically sell it during the school day because it competed with school lunch. But you ain't saying nothing about before the bell ring and after the bell ring. But we still was, we was slinging cup of noodles. Man, that's a killer of a fundraiser. Listen, you sell it for $1, they're like 20 cents a piece. I'm just saying, we were selling cocoa in a cup, Cheetos, hot Cheeto fry, like all the stuff for like I'm gonna say extravagant prices, but it was convenience. It was convenience, and kids would come and get merchandise and product from the band.
So we have a great band booster program who furnishes, provides food, snacks, and all of that for certain events. pretty much most of the events. We just had something called Bandemonium this past Friday. That's the version of what A&T's Blowout is, or NCCU's Band Blast, where the high school kids come and play with the college kids. Well, ours is Bandemonium, where the middle schools come and play with the high school band. So the parents did provide for that. I say all of that to say the kids are so used to the parents providing, and I would lock our kitchen and tell them none of that food is for you at this point, because the function is over. So if you want something out of here at this point, you have to pay for it. What we used to just let them have it, because parents was like, let them babies eat, they might be hungry. They kept saying, well, I haven't eaten all day, can I have some chips? I said, so chips are getting ready to take care of you not eating all day, or do you just want chips because you see them? So long story short, once I started charging them, they were not hungry for the chips anymore. But they were going to eat us out of house and home, because you kept giving to them. I said, I have a new boo. They are $1 now. And don't give it to me, because I don't want to be in trouble for embezzling. Go to the Hornet Bank and tell them this is for a bag of chips from the band room. You come back down here, you bring me the receipt, and I'll give you the chips. That was too much for them. I said, now you understand, because y'all eating it. We're not getting any money back from it, but y'all just want to mooch off of us. Okay.
You can't eat your own product. Like, that's what y'all doing. You eating the product. And like my band kids, I would charge them too. I was like, and they were pretty honest. I miss a lot of them, because they would be like, I put $5 in there because I knew I was coming back for 5 cups like all week. And that's the type of stuff they would do. They were like real honest. The ESSER funds, I wanted to end with this. I did a survey with ESSER funds, which those of you don't know, like the pandemic, the district said, hey, Department of Education said that there's ESSER funds post-pandemic for schools. And that's the first time like a large allotment of money came to like school districts in like several decades, to be honest. And somebody posted one day, they was like, oh, if your band don't have nothing, then that's your fault, because they're ESSER funds. They didn't know that the school has to approve the money for band. It said it can be used for band and music. It doesn't say it has to be. In a lot of cases, a lot of districts, those ESSER funds were used well before they even hit the door. Like as soon as the money, they said how much they will get, the budget had already been written up for the school year of where it's going to go. And so some of the feedback I got from people who filled out my little survey, they was like, they said the money's already gone. They could be lying or not, but there's always someone moving the goalposts, I feel like, when it comes to these things. And you have to be really savvy. So, like quite ignorantly, and that's not anything against people. They were like, oh, y'all don't want money. You have not because you asked not. And I'm like, I asked, and they was like, nope. And the school that I work for, the choir teacher, she just said that they released like some funds. But when you talk about 30 years of nothing, 30,000 is nothing. Like that's every instrument that needs to go to the shop now, or that's replacing the entire inventory. If $30,000 would do it, and I'm gonna be honest, it won't if you have a sizable program. It's just a drop in the bucket. So people's like, well, ESSER funds and those exist. That's if your school district didn't already earmark that money for something, and that's the unfortunate thing. I always say to the band community and band fans and people who are on the outside looking in, the best way to support is you support. Like you put your money where your mouth is. Like don't be coming for these educators that are trying to make it happen. A lot of us are doing above and beyond. Like if you want to see it happen and you got a trumpet in your closet that you don't play no more, donate it. Get a tax write-off. Like come volunteer, come work a concession, come work a booth or something, come help do these things. But it's so much easier to complain about what you think is not happening to actually become part of the make it happen crew. So I thought this was a good topic. Cybil, The bangers. Sil will be with the banger topics. And you know, we all out here trying to make it happen. And that's crazy. Vending machines. I just saw that question. They turned the vending machines off in my district during the school day. The kids can't use the vending machines because of the initiative behind healthy lunches. That ain't gonna make no money because they turn them off. So it's just crazy. Like I said, they keep moving the goalposts. You have to be savvy, or you start selling ramen noodles out your store.
You could put some reeds in there and valve oil and gum.
They ain't buying no reeds.
It's gotta be a microwave size vending machine. Start small.
Or your drum storage room is a front. Like I'm telling you, the top part open and we like, yes, what you need, we got it. Put that in your bag, baby. Put that in your bag. Zip it up. All right, hurry up, get out of here. You bringing the heat. I was talking to the children like we were selling drugs. I feel so bad. That's my Southeast DC coming out. I was like, I feel like a drug dealer. But it worked. With that being said, oh man, we could talk about this all day long. But I'm hungry, and the kitchen don't always open on time when I'm down here in this basement. So tune in. For real, I'm probably gonna put out, like, the panel have music programs. Like we have programs. You know what? We need a Cash App or something. Like, this is a fundraiser in itself. Come on, like Cash App. Send your instrument to Cybil's program. You know, you can make it so like it's got to go to a student and they have to own it. Like I've done that. Like, oh, this flute will become someone's personal instrument, and those type of things. You know, like the village. We need the village for this type of thing. So thank you, village, for listening. Thank you for all you do and all the savviness that we bring to the table and all the support, because we need it. ESSER funds or not. I'm hollering out Diary of a Lady Band Director. Round of applause to the wonderful people. Jay, the man behind the scenes. Charlie's angels on the screen, but there's always Charlie back there making sure that this happens every week. So hit that like, daddy. Hit that subscribe, daddy. Share. And we out.